Hi folks, Kevin here. Well, it's January 18th, 2018, and today I thought I'd go over one of our reference materials that I use all the time. Many of you are familiar with if you've been a long-time viewer, you know that our interests in permaculture and homesteading, small-scale farming, construction, making our own compost, bioremediation, waste reduction, and are all geared around our own lack of dependence on outside systems and maximizing our health for as long as we can. So increasing lifespan, but more importantly, increasing health span, so that we can really function well throughout our whole lives and potentially contribute to other communities, people, friends, and be able to reduce the destructive processes, produce less waste, and so on. So that's what a lot of this channel is about, is trying to own our thoughts, our feelings, our own health, our own responsibility for everything. So one of the things that this time of year we're doing is we're planning on what we're going to be growing next year. Now we have the food forests that are already established. There'll be some tweaking to those food forests, and we'll be doing grafting and lots of pruning and lots of processing of all of those foods throughout the year. But this time of year, during the winter months when it's really frigid outside, we're planning on what worked real well. We review what worked very well in the gardens and what changes would we like to make for next year. So if you saw some of our garden videos, you saw we grew lots of kale, we grew leeks, corn, you name it, and lots of different herbs as well. And these were really selected based on our desire to incorporate as many high-quality, phytonutrient-rich, nutrient-dense foods into our own diets to enhance our health. So that's what we're doing now, is trying to select. So there's a reference. Now, when I talk about the gardening and farming, the references would be Jean-Martin Fortier or Elliot Coleman or Curtis Stone. So Curtis Stone, the urban farmer, Jean-Martin Fortier, the market gardener, and Elliot Coleman with, and I can't remember the titles of his texts right now, but several texts. So all of these people have helped us a lot. And as far as permaculture goes, well, that's heavily influenced us as well. And as you know from one of the other videos that I posted, Ask Me Anything, Are You Vegan? Well, we're whole food plant-based. Now, I know that will turn some people off because permaculturists and homesteaders, lots of people in our little niche, or what the breadth of the niche that we're in, are paleo people. And I don't want what I'm going to say next to turn you off and think, oh my goodness, because even if you consume lots of meat and grow and farm various animal species on your property, the reference I want to talk about is potentially very, very helpful. So the reference is a book that I've had now since it first came out, and the author is Dr. Michael Greger, the key person at nutritionfacts.org, and he came out with this book, How Not to Die, and recently he came out with a cookbook that's How Not to Die Cookbook. I got this book as an audiobook initially, and I found that to be absolutely fascinating. I love his website because we can always go back and look at, well, where he's mentioning these things. He's talking about, like for the paleo people, you're probably familiar with like the China study and all, trying to warn people about the hazards of eating meat and dairy and all. And yes, he does talk about those things, but that isn't what this book is about. This is a whole food, plant-based science-based reference book is how I look at it. And even if you're one of those people who really enjoy eating your bacon and eggs and love your cheese, which I was there, this book is a great reference for doing additional things that can promote more healthy living. And that doesn't mean to exclude the other things, the meat, the animal products. These are things to include. So the book is broken down into two parts. The first part is, let's see if I can find the contents here. So the first part is broken down into the how not to die from various disease processes, whether it's heart disease, and that's when we're talking about heart disease, we're talking about cardiovascular disease. It can be even anything involved with our circulatory system, and that includes even erectile dysfunction or cognitive dysfunction as well. So cardiovascular diseases, it's not just heart. It's not really just heart disease. Lung disease, brain disease, digestive disease, infectious diseases, diabetes, high blood pressure, liver disease, blood cancers, kidney disease, breast cancer, suicidal depression, prostate cancer, Parkinson's disease, and iatrogenic causes. And iatrogenic causes is really doctor-related causes, which is really, if you take all of the potential mechanisms where a doctor is involved in causing death, it's the third leading cause of death in the United States. And the first one's cardiovascular disease, heart disease. The second one is cancer, and that's all cancers grouped into that section. And although this book is titled How Not to Die, I think it would be better as how to increase your health span, but it would never sell. But that's really what this book is about. It's how to improve your health for as long as possible. So that's the first part. It really takes disease sections down bit by bit. Now I'm going to talk about the third part and skip the second part for just a moment. The third part of the book really is in part 3. It's all of the citations. And so for the first part, as you're going through it, you can see, geez, let's say that there's hypertension or there's diabetes in your family, or you have it, or a loved one has that disorder. Well, you can jump to that section, read through it, and put a marker back in the book under the Part 1, Section 4, that particular disorder. So if you're suffering from diabetes, going to or you're concerned about getting diabetes because you're pre-diabetic, you can actually go to the references and pull up those references. And I'll talk more about that in just a second. Then Part 2, which really is the part that I focus on, because everything that I've had, the diseases, the obesity, the hypertension, gastrointestinal disease, all of those are being maintained now. I no longer have any clinical manifestations, and they've been reversed. Thea's had cancer. So all of those disease processes, they're not foremost in my thoughts. It's really when we get to Part 2. And Part 2 is broken down into several sections. So Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen. So these foods that he believes that you should be trying to get into your body every single day, no matter what your diet typically is. These are things that if you can get these in every day, there's scientific research demonstrating that it increases your chances of enhancing your health and prolonging your life. So that's the first part, the first section in Part 2. The rest of the sections are taking each one of the dietary components, so it breaks down into beans, berries, other fruits, cruciferous vegetables, greens, other vegetables, flaxseed, nuts and seeds, herbs and spices, whole grains, beverages, and exercise. So that brings us up to page 399. Then the section after that is, I mentioned already, that each one of those disease processes, there's the reference material for each one of those areas. And let's say I'm interested in growing certain vegetables. Well, we'll go and look at the evidence under cruciferous vegetables. So in the part 2, he mentions cruciferous vegetables, and that begins on 304. You can look at the references. Well, way in the back, and I'm calling it part 3, you can go back to cruciferous vegetables and look at the footnotes for each one of these, the citations. And just reading through them gives you an idea about the potential value. Then I go to Google Scholar or PubMed or whatever means you want to use to actually evaluate, to look at these references and see, geez, is there bias? I mean, does this guy work for the broccoli, the Broccoli Foundation? Not as big as the American Dairy Association. So we can look, is there bias? How big was the study group that he cited? What were the materials and methods that were used? What was what kind of study design was it? Was it a double-blinded placebo controlled study? And besides, are there any biases? Who funded the study? That's always important to see who's doing the funding of the studies. But also, how large the population, the research group is, how many were taken out of the study for various reasons, and so on and so forth. And certainly the statistical analysis. So all of these factors you can take the time to use to evaluate and say, geez, how much weight do I want to put on these blueberries? He's saying, we should have the blueberries in our diet because there's all these potent phytonutrients like anthocyanin there, or we should be having broccoli and all, and so on. So, like I did I posted a video several months ago. I think it was the microgreen one. So there's some microgreens. Those are all broccoli sprouts back there. And I enjoy broccoli, but as a small scale market gardener or as a gardener, you grow a whole bunch of broccoli and we do freeze it and all. And I grow it for other reasons as well, for the seed and for the pollination for all the bees, the other insects here on site. But once we grow it and we take it, we steam it and put butter on it or cheese on it, however you may like to have it. Well, are we getting all of those phytonutrients? Well, this reference is going to cite studies that would show, in order to get sulforaphane, and I covered this in the microgreen video in the past, well, myrosinase, which is the enzyme that does the work, that does a conversion of the glucoraphanin, or the component that's there in the broccoli and other cruciferous vegetables. Broccoli is just one of the ones that has the highest levels of this. So that myrosinase converts the precursor into sulforaphane, and that is which controls hundreds of beneficial mechanisms. It's not just an anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, does DNA repair. It takes care of toxins that are building up in the liver. There's so many things that it does that it's amazing. But let's say, okay, I'm going to get as much broccoli in my diet as possible. If you go back and you read what he says, and he makes the very important points about it, and you can actually look at the research to see, is this true? Well, you need to break up the broccoli, chop it up or chew it up. If you're eating it raw, if you chew it up, that the myrosinase is freed up, and what it does is it makes that chemical transformation. If you're cooking it, and then you chop it up later on, well, The myrosinase is heat labile, so it gets destroyed. So you have to take something like mustard seed, or you have to mix it with some other myrosinase to get the benefits of it. So it's going through the phases of food prep, and it's like crushing our garlic before we actually cook it as well. So although we may know that ginger or turmeric or broccoli or purple cabbage or blueberries, it's understanding how to optimize the potential phytonutrient bioavailability to our bodies so that it can have the maximal benefit. And so nutritionfacts.org, which doesn't accept any funding from any producers, whether it's broccoli or the beef industry or the dairy industry or McDonald's or any corporations, it doesn't accept that sort of funding. So this really is a fantastic reference to help take charge of your own life. And that's what the most important thing that I want people to recognize. This is about you and I taking responsibility for our own lives. So if we're overweight, that's something when I was overweight, I struggled with it for years and all. I was obese. I had the health degradation associated with being overweight. Hypertension was something I dealt with for years. And I'm not trying to do one of those testimonials that by buying this book, what this book will do for you is provide you with the information, but you have to utilize that information. And again, I'm not trying to twist someone's arm to say, you should need to stop eating the eggs, you need to stop eating the dairy and the cheeses. People around me, they'll hear me say that to them, especially when they talk about some of the health problems that they're experiencing. So below in the video in the description, there'll be Amazon affiliate links for these two books. If you're someone that just wants to get the audio version, I think it's really good. Dr. Greger himself reads it. If you haven't seen him in videos in the past, he's quite entertaining. He's someone who will probably keep your attention during the whole time that you're listening to the audiobook. And I really encourage you. I think there's supposed to be a PDF that goes with the audiobook. I bought it on Amazon, and I looked for getting the PDF, and then I said, I'm just going to go out and get the book because I wanted all the references to pull them up myself and review them. Then, real quick, the How Not to Die cookbook, loaded with beautiful pictures and all. This has just been out, so we haven't utilized this very much. We've been tweaking recipes for several years. Now, our recipes are really based on trying to use everything that we're growing on our own site. Now, we're in a really cold, temperate climate with lots of cloud cover. So we have to find ways of minimizing those things, like we do use cashew nuts. We do buy our own coffee. And if there's interest, I'll go over where we're getting these supplies from and all in another video in the future. But we really want the bulk of what we're consuming to be very, very valuable for our at the cellular level to help enhance our quality of life throughout the rest of our lives, and hopefully we live long, productive lives. And that's the thing, is being productive. A lot of people, our ages in their 60s, are not as productive. They're tired at the end of the day when they get done work, and they're exhausted, they're beat. I understand that, and it'll take time to really make a big difference. It takes years at eating differently, exercising, getting appropriate sleep to really make a tremendous impact. You'll feel some benefits right off the bat, but Thea brings home bugs from exposure to gastrointestinal and certainly respiratory exposure. Everybody in the hospital that she works in, well, there's been people out sick left and right, and we're both pretty darn healthy for the most part. So this is a quick video to talk about one of our references. I may be doing a video on our process of planning which crops we're going to be growing this next season, and other videos are coming. So thanks so much for watching, folks. Please share the video if you think this was a value. Give it a thumbs up. There'll be product links for these two books in the description below. It helps me out potentially as well. Well, again, thanks so much for watching. Please feel free to leave a comment, ask a question. Take care and have a great day. Bye-bye now.